Hello everybody, my name is Joyce Bock from Salubrious Events, and in this video I'd like to talk to you about someone very special who I met back in 2007. His full name is Vusamazulu Credo Mutwa, probably more commonly known as Credo Mutwa. He was a traditional medicine man called a sangoma, a traditional healer, also known as a sunasu, like a Zulu diviner. Credo died this year on the 25th of March at the age of 98, nearly 99 years old. And he has written several books about Africa and the traditional stories. So one of them is this one, African Folk Tales. This one, Zulu Shaman, and several others. But I first came to know about Credo when David Icke did some interviews with him called the Reptilian Agenda. I think that was back in 2003. I'm not sure. It might be even before that year. But he talked about the reptilians. They call them the Chitauri. So Chitauri. And they are reptilians who had been on the earth for a very long time, evolved on the earth and had dominated the planet and humans for a very long time, and are still planning a takeover of humans. I can't remember exactly more of what he said because I saw those videos a long time ago, more than 13 years ago. But you can still have a look at them. I think you can still buy them from Amazon. Very, very interesting. And Credo wears this very heavy necklace, and he wears it around his neck to remind him of the connection of us and the reptilian and the ET connections, and also I think the story of the earth. I think that necklace was stolen in later years. But so these are the beautiful beads that Credo's wife Virginia and a group of women made. So yeah, beautiful handmade necklaces, these two as well. So yeah. All right, so I had the fortunate opportunity to go on a tour. It was led by Jeremy Bohr, and his tour company was called Transformational Tours. And so he was taking a group of us to meet Credo, and I jumped at the opportunity. I just had to. I didn't really think about it. I just put in some notice on that I needed to go on leave from work, and yeah, booked it. So yeah, he lived in South Africa, and it was a long way from Johannesburg. I remember it was about more than 5 hours, I think around 5.5 or 6 hours driving all the way there. He lived in a place called Kuruman, and it was like in the middle of nowhere. It was like a desert. And then there was his house, and there were little kind of mud huts, like round mud huts around it, and the main house. And he had veggie patches and a lot of herbs growing because he also used herbal medicine. So I remembered walking there, and in the middle of nowhere was his place. And he also had huge sculptures. So there was I remember this huge sculpture of an African woman with big breasts and in her traditional gear, and she just looked really, really powerful. I think she was an African queen. And there was the sculpture of African warriors and kings, and even a sculpture that looked like a mantid, and another one that looked like a robot. So it was just amazing. What an amazing place. There were lots of children running around, and I heard that Credo adopted orphans, so kids whose parents died from AIDS, or the kids had AIDS themselves, and they might have been abandoned, but he adopted the orphans and helped them as well. And there was a group of women, and they made beads, and we met Virginia, his wife, and she was lovely, very welcoming, beautiful, beautiful person. So when we got there, we heard that Credo was quite sick, but he did not want to cancel our meeting with him because he thought we were a group of Tibetan monks. And I hope he wasn't too disappointed when we arrived, 6 women and 1 man. We were not Tibetan monks. But anyway, he didn't look too disappointed, but I don't know. He welcomed us, and he was quite sick, so he kept saying he felt like a dog's breakfast. And he kept addressing us in really high terms. Like if I asked him a question, he'll say, "Oh, highest one," and then he'll answer it. And he said, "Oh, highest one, is there more you want to ask of that?" So he would refer to us with these, elevated names, which was very unusual. And I found him to be one of the most humble men I've ever met. And I just fell in love with him. I just loved him. So I just couldn't help it. I just, the love just exuded. He just had that presence, and it's not like a romantic love. It's just I just love this person. I really love him. So that's his effect on me, at least, and I think the others as well. So just a little bit about his background, and I did look up because I don't remember much about where he came from, but apparently his father had 3 children before he was born, and his father was widowed, and then he met his mother, and his father was a Christian, and Credo's mother was a Zulu girl. So already there was a difference in religion, and I think that might have been one of the causes of his parents' separation later in life. Credo was brought up by his uncle, and he didn't go to school until he was 14 years old. Then he came, I think he went away and then came back to his family's village, and he was very, very sick, severely sick, and his maternal grandfather, who was a Zulu, treated him using traditional medicine, and it worked, so he was cured. From then on, Credo found, he thought, well, maybe there really is something to the traditional methods and the traditional ways. And when he got older, he got some property and really wanted to preserve his traditions and his culture. So he developed a cultural center, and then it was burnt down apparently by some protesters, some students, where after he was misquoted during a radio interview, and set the village on fire, and his Credo's son died, which was very sad. And I think there was another fire as well later on. I don't know the rest of his story. I remember vaguely remembering he had more children, but most of them died, except for one daughter. But I'm not sure what happened after that. Anyway, so yeah, met Credo. We stayed for dinner, and I remember his hands were really soft. I was able to hold his hand, and I just was amazed at how soft they were. And it was a beautiful time. It was a lovely time, and he shared with us. He talked to us all day. So he talked for hours, and I remember I loved it. I could listen to him for hours and hours. So this is just from memory from all those years ago, since 13 years ago. I think I did write some things down, but I can't locate it at the moment. So if I find it, I will do another video. So from memory, he talked a lot about the Chitahuri, so the reptilians. So again, how they were on Earth, and I think he did meet one or two of them. And he also talked about him and another like a small group of them, or they were all shamans. You know, they would walk for days and days, and they encountered someone who had some dead flesh from the grey aliens. I think from Zeta Reticuli, and they ate that flesh, and they hallucinated, and he said he was sick for days, and then after that they just hallucinated and got visions and messages and lots of stuff. I can't remember though what they were. He also talked about meeting the bird people and various other ETs. I remember he talked about a woman with red hair, but she was in the spirit world, and she was like an entity attachment, and he couldn't get rid of her. Like, he saw many other shamans and they couldn't get rid of her, and he was like his obsession to try and find someone to get rid of her. And I think finally he did, and many years later, and she did go, but years later she returned and he just accepted her. In one of his rooms, he's got this hammock inside a round room, and there was some water, like a pool of water in the ground, and the hammock was suspended over it, and there were clay sculptures, like little clay sculptures around it. So he talked about when the children come in and he adopts them, he would put them on a hammock because that comforts them. Anything suspended over water is very comforting as part of the healing process. And then he'll give them a lump of clay, and they can make whatever they want out of the clay and tell their story. So that's what I remember him saying. I remembered him saying, talking about how to prevent someone from being a serial killer. So he was saying that you had to get them before they make their first kill. So usually they would fantasize a lot about their kill. But if you can get them before they make their first kill and get them to be with a woman who had just given birth, and for him to hold a newborn baby, that would cure them from being a future serial killer, because he's holding life and that energy of life, like giving birth, giving life rather than destroying, would cure, I guess, that desire to destroy life. I remember he talked about how they would laugh about the Western world, like the women really wanting diamond rings for a marriage. He said in their tradition, diamonds can be used to make people compliant and to control people. So he said they laugh about that, and they would, like, the women would never wear a diamond, but they but they really liked their rubies and other precious stones. Yeah, so that's all I can really remember at this stage. Hopefully I can find my diary and jot more memories, or maybe I might reach out to the other people that went and get more stories as to what he talked about, because he talked to us for hours and hours. Later on, we each got a reading from him, and they called it throwing the stones. And I think it's a traditional way of reading. So, we have the tarot cards, but in their tradition, they have these stones, and he put it in a bowl. He just looked at me and he told me about a significant past life in Africa, and that I'm back here to, I guess, go over old grounds to connect back to Africa. And he talked a bit more about what could be in store for me in the future. And then he said a name. And he said, I don't know what name or what culture it's from, but he kept getting this name. And he said the name, and the name was exactly my sister's Chinese name. And now nobody in the group knew, and I never told anyone. It didn't even occur to me. And he said, do you know someone? And I said, yeah, she is my sister. And he said, oh, well, she's looking after you while you're in Africa. I guess, on a spiritual level. And after that, I talked to my sister, and that night, like I timed it, So, she said that night, when I was actually getting a reading from Credo, she had a dream that she won the lottery 3 times. So I think she went out and got a lottery ticket, but I don't think she won. Not that I know anyway. Also, before seeing Credo, we went to Hoedspruit and spent time with Linda Tucker from there's a white lion reserve there. We spent time with her and the white lions. So she rescues them, breeds them, and helps them integrate back into the wild. And when we were there, when she found out that myself and another lady were going to Cairo after this, she gave us some precious stones in a bag and asked if we could put it between the paws of the great Sphinx, and we said, okay, we'll try. So after our visit to Credo and Africa, this other lady and I went to Egypt, Cairo, and with this bag of precious stones. And when we got there, and we tried to get close to the Sphinx, but we couldn't, because we could only go to a ledge and look over. So nobody had access, I think, unless you had special privileges. But there was a young man selling postcards just below the ledge, and we bought some postcards from him and said, could you do us a favor and throw this bag at the Sphinx? And he agreed, and he threw them, and it actually did land in between the paws of the Sphinx. So we went, yay! Now I don't know exactly why. I'm going to try and track down Linda Tucker and see if she could remember what specifically that was for. We just accepted it was something to do to seed the white lions of Timbavati and the lineage, to connect with the Sphinx in all the energies in Egypt. And when I got back home to Australia, I had a very, very vivid dream of an eagle flying across the sky with like an invisible string in its beak, and at the end of the string was a huge crystal, and the crystal was so bright that it looked like a sun. So it looked like the eagle was flying and carrying a sun across the sky, and there was Credo below. So I did a painting, if you can see in the background of that. It was years ago, and just this real feeling of mission accomplished. And I told the other group about my dream, and they said that they also had a dream about me. So again, some more synchronicities. But after seeing Credo, my mind was so clear for 3 weeks. It was like your windows were dirty, but you didn't realize they were dirty. And then someone comes and cleans your windows on both sides. And it was super clear. And I was just amazed how clear my mind was. You just don't realize how, I guess, it's soiled in some way of lots of thoughts and, stuff stick to it. But it was just so clear for 3 weeks. And I loved it. It was just amazing. But after 3 weeks, it went back to normal. So that's my memories of Credo at this stage. And if I have more memories, I'll do another talk. But I just wanted to share with you because he's an amazing human being, and I just really wanted to commemorate his memories since his passing in March of this year. And also, I guess, given the way that the world is, I think we really need to be connected to the earth and, the earth stories as well through us as well. So, yeah, thank you so much for listening. And I hope you tune in again to my channel, Salubrious Events. Thank you. Bye for now.